Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with something a bit special. So this video is going to be filmed in sections. I want to say it's probably about the 10th of May. I can't remember the date perfectly because my brain is shut down on me the moment I turn on the calendar. And I am part of a collaboration swap make thing for PM Artist Studio, and I will put the link to PM Artist Studio down in the description box. I will also put a link down in the description box to a Facebook group called Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist Group, which is a group which I'm part of, which is full of positive artists, crafters, creative people who are very supportive of each other and our art forms, and each month they have challenges and swaps and creative things going on. So anyway, PM Artist Studio wanted to do something different, so in May they announced that they wanted to do a swap and make and keep on the theme of old to new, and the rules or guidelines were you were paired up with someone else on the planet and you had to send each other 3 items. You then had to make something from those 3 items, and anything else you chose that's in your stash, in your craft room, trying to stay within the theme of old to new. And you made a video of that and you keep the item at the end of it. And I thought that was exciting, so I put my name down, and I've been paired up with Kylie Koo's studio in Scotland. Hi Kylie. I've sent my parcel to Kylie. Kylie has sent her parcel to me. The tape is here obviously to protect the innocent. So I've not opened this. So this is the start of a video. I should imagine this is definitely going to be more than an hour long, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, then probably take about a week to decide what I'm doing. Try to make a project using everything that's in here, or the 3 things that are in here for me to use, and make it a coherent project. So enough of me gossiping. Thank you, Kylie. I'm nervous and excited to find out what's in here. You'll also notice I'm no longer wearing my wrist brace, people, so I'm a bit happy about that, right? I want to be very careful, because when you open a package, you never know what's in here, obviously. And not only that, you never know what's in here that could get damaged. Oh, I'm seeing some beautiful colours. Ooh. Okay, right. This will not get, this is coming off for a start. I will save the postage stamp, because I always save postage stamps. Okay, a fabulous cover. I love this colour, Kylie. Oh, and there's stuff inside it. Right, let's put that to one side. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, I love this. Kylie did send me a message and she said, I hope you like what's in the package, and I apologise for my sewing. Don't apologise for your sewing. This is magnificent. I love this. Ooh, have to think about that, right? So that's I'm obviously going down the journal route. I need to make a journal. Now, funny thing is, I'm about to go on a vacation and I was going to make myself a travel journal. This might be the cover for that journal. I don't know. I'm loving the colour though. This is beautiful. Right. I'm being a little cautious because I don't know what else is in here. Ooh, that's lovely. Okay, that's a PM Artist Studio stencil. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say it's called Geometric Polynesian. I love this though. This is beautiful. This I think is going to be... Ooh, I don't know. Maybe I could make a writing board out of this for the journal. Right, the brain is already thinking, Kylie. Right, so I've got... What is this? Ooh, look at this. Ooh, okay, I'm definitely seeing a theme, and I'm definitely loving this. Right, so this has given me papers to actually create something else with. So if I do a journal, I could do a writing board. I could make this into ephemera. I could potentially make... Are they stuck together? They are stuck together. I could potentially make a page in the journal from that. I wonder if I quite like this. I was going to say, should I cover it up? But I quite like that. Okay, thinking time definitely. Right, so I have a cover. I have a piece of textured card, not paper, and I've got some brown paper packaging with, I can't think of the word. I think these are nested circles, and they're both gel prints. I'm excited. I think that's going to work. Okay, guys, right. It's going to be 2 seconds for you. It's going to probably be approximately 3 or 4 days for me, because I need to think, pull some supplies in, and then you and I are going to start creating. Well, I'm going to create and you're going to sit there and watch, enjoy a cup of coffee and have a chocolate biscuit. So 2 seconds for you. For me, it's been, I'd say almost 2 weeks, because I had other projects to finish and then I had a week's holiday, because to be honest with you guys, I'd reached burnout and I needed a break, and it also gave me an opportunity to think. So, right, we have Kylie Coo's cover, and it's obviously a cover, and I'm obviously going to make a journal out of it. Love the cover. The one thing I do find is it's really soft, so I thought, right, I need to reinforce this some way. I knew I liked the inside, but sometimes you have to sacrifice something to make something else. So I have this, and this is called Craft Tex. It's spelled K-A-R... bear with me, I'm sure I've got a bit of a pamphlet on it. Yes, I do. Here you go. It's called Craft Tex. You can make lots of stuff out of it. As you can see, it's really durable. I bought a sample pack of it, but you can buy it on the roll. Not the cheapest product in the world, but it depends on where you buy it, how you buy it, and whether there's a sale going on. Anyway, so this is what I thought I'd use. I've used it for journal covers before, so I know it's quite robust. So I have a piece of it, luckily enough, that's almost the same size as the cover. So I thought, right, we're going to put this and make this the inside. But I had an idea. What I would like to do is I'm going to attach this to this. So I'm going to try my best to line it up and then glue this down. So this is obviously face outwards. So it'll be like that. And then I'm going to turn this over, glue it all down. Well, I'm going to cut it down in size, fold it over, and then that will then be glued into this. And then I'm going to sew around the edge with my sewing machine. And that, I think, is going to make the cover, and it'll make it more robust, more durable. And I do think I'm going to use it as a travel journal for something I'm doing later in the year. So, first thing I want to do is, I've had a good look at this, and the one thing I'm not keen on is this was really flapping around. I glued that down, but I don't like the fringing. No matter what I do, I've played with, so sorry Kylie, that bit's coming off. I know some of you are probably going, oh, that's lovely texture. It is lovely texture, but from what I have planned for this, it's going to actually get in the way, and I'd rather leave the bigger piece on here than lose all of it. So right, so I've cut that down just a little bit, just so I don't have those long fibres all over the place. So right, let's put that to one side, give this a bit of a clean up. So the question is, what do I want to do first? I think I'm going to make this and this first, purely because then that can be drying while I work on other stuff on the cover. So I need to glue this to this. Now, I did fold this because I need to find out where the center line is, because obviously one side is going to be white and one side is going to be turquoise or teal or whatever colour you do. So I'm just going to put a line down there so that I know where that is. And if I hold this up to the light, I can see where the top and the bottom is as well. So, okay, that'll give me enough to work with. Now, how am I going to glue this down? I did play around with a few different ideas. And I think I'm going to use Mod Podge. And I think once it's all done, I'm probably going to do the Mod Podge on the front side of this as well. So for those of you who are not used to Mod Podge is this. I use the matte one. It does come in other formats as well. I'm just going to grab myself a brush. A brush go in there? It might go in there. Right, let's put something down to actually cover this up. Now, I'm not sure whether I'm going to show everything of every part of every process I do in this journal. I will do the most I can, but this video is going to be considerably long. Let's just marry that idea before we start. But it is a video, it's not a live, therefore you will have the opportunity, that's not going to fit in there, is it? You are going to have the opportunity to actually, let's pull this one, that's a bit of a battered old brush, it'll do. You are going to have the opportunity to pause the video whenever you want to pause the video. Come back to it another day. I've heard from many of you, because I very often am aware of the length of videos, and I know that sometimes longer videos put me off, and I've heard from a lot of you that you would rather have one long video that you can pause and come back to than several little videos that you then have to search the part 2 or the part 3 or the part 4 in some instances. Right, I'm just gluing half of this down, making sure it's along that line. Give that a bit of a press down. I'm working quite quickly for no other reason than basically I can. I do also know that I'm going to be sewing this when it's eventually done. I'm going to sew around the edges, so yes, it needs to be glued, but it doesn't need to be glued to within an inch of its life, should we say. Right, let's put that down there. Let's put my glue brush, my Mod Podge brush. I'm just going to put it in some damp cloth so that it stays moist and doesn't dry out on me. Lid back on the Mod Podge for no other reason. I will drop it. I'm absolutely certain I will drop it. Let's turn this over, protecting my mat slightly, and work any wrinkles out. Now, there are wrinkles in the paper design to start with. Doesn't bother me at all. I would rather, however, make sure I've got them as smooth as I can. I wonder whether I've got a brayer. Okay, I've got my gel plate brayer here, and I'm just going to brayer this down just so everything is as fully in contact as I can make it. You don't need to use one of these. You could use a rolling pin if you had a rolling pin. So let's just make sure I've got this pressed out all the way around, making a bit of a mess because everything's sticking to everything else, but that's fine. Right, I'm not going to do this side at present. I'm going to wait until it's fully dried. Right, so that's this bit prepared. I'm going to flip this over again, peel this off here, and I'm going to let this sit out of harm's way just so that it's drying, and then I can cut the sides down and maybe rescue anything that's free. Let's look at the cover. Now, I did have to make a decision which was the front and which was the back. I really liked this bit on here. However, I think if this was the back, it would look like it had been forgotten, and I wanted to put a topper on this. Now, I did go through my stash of stuff and I found this. Now, I've added the lace to it. I've just cut a piece of lace and stuck it on 4 sides. Now, this originally, not the dragonfly, that I heat embossed when I found this card. This here, I think this is either, it came in Happy Mail, or it came in a swap from someone and was a bigger piece and I cut down, or it might even have been from PM Artist Studio, maybe one of the pieces that Patricia and Mariah send out. But look at that. If that's not a perfect match, I don't know what is. I wanted to put the white on here, and it'll become apparent why I wanted to put the white on here afterwards. So I also like the fact that it carries the lace that's on here up into the design. Also, there's white here, and I'm going to tell you why I've chosen to do white later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that on with a bit of Fabri-Tac, and then I'm going to show you the next bit I'm going to do, because eventually I'm going to sew around this with my sewing machine as well. So the Fabri-Tac is basically just to hold it in place. So run the Fabri-Tac along here. Go on, out you come. I didn't need that bit. Just enough to hold it in place. Now, I did heat emboss the dragonfly. I also put a layer of Mod Podge on the front of this just to give it some longevity and durability. So I want to position that about there. I'm just lift it up, see if it's relatively centered. It is. Now, after I finish the next bit, sewing around the edge, I will go back in and I will glue these flippy pieces down. But for the time being, that's just going to sit nicely on there. And then I'm going to talk to you about what my plan is, because I want to take this cover a little bit further. I want it to go, I don't say to the next level, because I love it as it is, but I want to give it a little something else. This block, just sit that block on there. It's just a stone block. It's a toothbrush holder many years ago, but I use it to keep my damp cloth in, because obviously it's waterproof. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make this cover look even more opulent. So my thought was beads. Now, I make dangles for journals and ephemera and stuff like that. And I thought, you know, some of these, the really little ones, if I did clusters of these little beads, preferably not one stuck onto this, the colour is perfect. And I could mix in with them some of the white beads as well, the little fake pearls. If I can get them out of here. My fingers are a bit fumbly. So that would then again pull the white down. So I think that's going to be one of my next steps. And I'm not going to try and show you that on screen, because seriously, it's a needle with some thread through it. Now I need to find one that will go through the beads, don't I? That would be a good thought to double check. There you go, that'll go through there nicely. So it's not my intent to actually sew them all over. I just want little bits of clusters around. I want to make sure I don't put any near the edges, because of course it'll inhibit me sewing. So that's my next stage. So I'm going to come back in 2 seconds for you. Okay, so here I'm back again. So I've done little clusters of 3 different coloured artificial pearls. I've only done them periodically because I just thought it added a little bit more opulence, as I like to say to it. I've also gone in and I've sewn around this panel. I know we glued it down anyway. I've done a double line of stitching and I've done some zigzags on it. On the back, I've put some Fabri-Tac at the back just to make sure all of the stitching that I hand did, all of those knots are glued in. So that's kind of almost ready to go, with the exception of one thing I want to put down before we look at the back. Now, I like to think my whole process through before I start, and I realised that I have to put a closure in this somewhere. So what I did is I found within my stash these Ceri silks, and yes, I did iron it because that's just who I am. And I like these 2 colours because I think these 2 colours will bring out everything that this journal has to offer. So I cut them to the same length. Length is your choice, whatever you choose to do. I'll say that in English one day. They're the same length, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them in half, and I'm not going to measure. Good grief, Ceri's not measuring anything. I'm just going to eyeball sort of kind of the middle of this. These are going to be held in with the glue that's put on the back of the covering that's going in here, and also they're going to be sewn in as well. So I'm just tapping these down so they don't move around while I'm creating the rest of the cover and doing the rest of the work. So probably an unnecessary step, but for me, my anxiety says I need to do it, so I'm going to do it. So I would hate something to go wrong just because, as my mother would always say, I spoilt the ship for a penn'orth of tar. If you've not heard that saying before, it's a very old saying. So it's all about taking shortcuts, and I tend not to take shortcuts. I work efficiently, but I wouldn't say I take shortcuts. So right, so just using Fabri-Tac. Sorry if I didn't show you, it's Fabri-Tac, that's what I'm using. There are other fabrics out there like this Fabri-Fix, which I've never used, so I'm just using Fabri-Tac because I know the product. So right, going to sit this to one side while we get on with the next bit. Now, this is pretty much dried. I mean, it's not a million miles off drying. It's still cool to the touch, but I did put quite a bit of Mod Podge on here. I now want to come in and I want to even up the back side of this, just so that I've got something that I can work with. Oh, I don't really need an inch, do I? Let's see if I can find a ruler that I want to use. That should be enough. Right, so knowing this ruler is an inch wide, I'd say I'm probably taking off 3/4 of an inch. And I'm using a ruler purely so that hopefully I can save as much of the outside as I can to use somewhere else in the book. Or journal, should I call it, because it is a journal. So, some of you will probably say, why didn't you cut it down before you start? Because I couldn't guarantee I was going to be able to centralise everything, guys. It's a bit hit or miss when it comes to working blind, like stuff is on the other side of the paper, and I wanted to make sure that I did the best I could with this. Now, these edges I'm cutting are never going to be seen unless the journal falls to pieces. So we'll cross our fingers that that never happens. Oops, stuck my nail. So as you can see, I've got bits. I don't have a lot, but I've got bits. I mean, that could be on something somewhere, so I'll keep all my scraps until the end of the project. So now I've got this as the inside of my journal. So if I fold that in half, then what's going to happen is I'll then make the decision whether this is the inside of the front cover or this is. I think it's pretty much going to be this as the inside because it's screaming at me to be inside of the cover. Now, there are definitely different ways you can do this. You can snip the corners to approximately there and fold the edge over. But because I know this is a fabric cover and it's not going to show a heck of a lot of bulk, I'm literally going to come in, and I'm using art glittered glue here. I'm in shot, I am in shot. And I'm literally going to fold over these corners just so they're nice and neat. It's going to be sewn, guys. That's why I'm not overly worried about it. And I'm literally just creating myself a mitered corner. Folding that in on itself. I'm using Fabri-Tac purely because it grips quicker than my, I'm using art glittered glue because it grips quicker than my Fabri-Tac would, and I want to be able to sew this quite quickly, purely because I want to go on to the next stage. And today is all about doing the covers, and then tomorrow I will start filming the rest of the process. So as you can see, I've just folded the corners over, and I'm just going to come in with my art glittered glue. I'm going to glue the rest of this down. As I said, it is going to be sewn, so I probably could do this without gluing it down, but I want to prevent everything moving around as I'm sewing, because if things move around and then I sew it and then I see that it's all gone a bit pear-shaped, should we say, I'm not going to be a happy camper, am I? Just for the sake of taking a little bit of time to glue things down. So, see, and by folding that over, I get a really nice corner there, and nothing of this craft text is then exposed. Now, there are lots and lots of different people out there who make journals. There are lots of people out there who make journals their way, and there are people out there who follow true and tried and tested versions of way to make journals. So if you're interested in making journals, for beginning, I've actually got a Making Journals for Beginners playlist on my own YouTube channel. However, there are plenty of other devotees of journal making. I would say watch lots of different journal makers and take away from each of them the things that work for you. I would always recommend someone called Nick the Booksmith. She spells her name N-I-K, the Booksmith, on, what am I trying to say, on YouTube. And I mention her because Nick actually does know a lot of the tried and true ways of doing journaling and book binding and covering and stuff. So I would recommend going and seeing her because, to be honest, she's really good at what she does. I like her way of teaching. So pop across, show her some love, have a look, and if you can get this flipping pin in here, I'll be very happy. There you go, pin in there. So that now gives us the inside of my cover. So this will be folded in half, pressed down, and then, as I said, that will make the inside of my cover. I don't mind the wrinkling. I mean, I actually like that. When we look at the cover itself, it's got that nature of not wrinkles but movement. So this will now sit within here, and that's why I had to do all of my sewing prior to this stage, because the moment I stick this down and sew it in, obviously I'm not going to have access to the other side, and anything I would have sewn then would have shown through here. So I'm going to come in now. I have to be a bit careful here that I get this as centralized as I possibly can on this, like top and bottom, edge to edge. I also need to make sure I don't glue my ribbons in place either. And I'm going to hold this in place with some Fabri-Tac. This time I'm using Fabri-Tac because it's the best product to use for this. I'm also gluing basically Craft-Tex, in my opinion, is a fabric. I don't know whether it's classified as one, but to me, I treat it as a fabric, should I say. So I'm just using enough Fabri-Tac to hold things in place. I'm not using art glitter glue for the reason that it's the wrong glue. Well, it's the wrong glue in my opinion anyway. So just pressing that down, making sure I don't glue my ribbons to anything bizarre as well. So now I'm not sure, I might do a double line of stitching around the edge of this. I might not. I just, when I start sewing it, I think I will probably, I'm running out of Fabri-Tac. I think I've got a new bottle somewhere. I will make a decision when it comes to the sewing, which I'm not doing with you watching, guys, for no other reason than it's pretty boring watching someone sew when you can't actually see exactly what they're doing. Well, that didn't take long and it went quite well actually. Remember, the reason I didn't put these clusters close to the edge was because the sewing machine wouldn't go past them, so I'm glad I actually moved them in. I did just sew one line around here, and I'm glad I did it from the back so that I could keep it as accurate as I wanted around the front edge. So that's all that done and dusted. So we're almost there with this. I'm I'm contemplating putting corners on these, like metal corners, and if I do it'll be silver, so I need to think about that because I've got gold but I've got silver here as well. And what I'm trying to do is, by introducing the pearls as a decoration throughout the journal, I can then use circles as one of the elements that would actually be a decorative element. Like if you look here on this fabric, this is a teardrop, but it's almost a leaf shape. This is a leaf shape. So it means I can pull in elements of these in the decoration, because I'm going to decorate the physical pages of this journal, not create ephemera for it. I thought, well, I'll explain more about that in a second. So anyway, so this is all sewn down now. All I need to do is just quickly come in, glue these down, and I'm just going to use a little bit of Fabri-Tac just to hold them in place, because if I don't, they'll just flop around. I don't need them fully adhered down. The reason why I wanted to put white lace and white pearls is I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm doing white signature pages. Now, I normally do coffee dyed in my signatures, but I'm going to do white pages. Now, I just want to test with one of them. This is just a regular A4 in Britain. I don't know what size it would be in America. Literally, it's just a folded piece of copier paper. And as you can see, it is the size that fits in here. I'm probably going to have to trim down the outer edge just slightly, but that doesn't bother me too much. So I'm back again. Had a bit of a change of heart. So I was in the middle of setting up for doing the gel plate business for the signature pages, and I kept looking across at this, and I really do want to put corners on it. And I had a closer look, and the problem I've got is, if you see, if I put the corner on there, this isn't actually going to grip. It's just going to grip to this and not this. And I'm thinking, you know, and I'm pondering and pondering, and my gut instinct is to trim this cover down. Now, all of Kylie's stitching is secured. it's glued to this as well, and I've stitched around the edges. So I think what I'm going to do, fingers crossed for me people, is I'm going to take my big scissors and I'm going to trim this right up to the edge of the piece I put in, as carefully as I can, without lobbing anything off, without destroying anything, hopefully. And because I know it's all held in place by that stitching I've got. And that means I can then put the corners on. I have to be really careful about these ties, because I could quite easily snip them off, which is not something that needs to be done at this point in time. Cutting ever so carefully. Hopefully I haven't cut anything there. So as Patricia from PM Artist Studio is always quoted as saying, be prepared to modify your plan. And guess what? We've just modified our plan. I just want to make sure that I don't modify myself all the way into disaster. Hold this over. Now it will make my signature slightly smaller, my journal slightly smaller. However, I believe that my signature will still be the correct size. I'll be able to breathe in a minute. Whew, right, so let's get rid of this lot. I could potentially keep it and use it for something else within the journal, but the likelihood of me doing that is going to be 0. So if I now put these on, as you can see, they now grip to the craft text, which is what I really need. And I don't think that, oh, it's very close to that, wasn't it? I don't think I've done any damage whatsoever to anything on there. And as I said, all the stitching is sealed in. I'm actually really pleased I did that, because I really do wanted to put on the silver book corners, because when you reckon, if I put those on, then that gives that a reason to be there. It adds to the brightness of the whole thing. So anyway, for those of you who have not seen me put book corners on before, I just get myself an old book to press up against. I've got a pair of flat-nosed pliers, and I've got some Fabri-Tac. And the process is fairly simple. All you do is you just put a little bit of Fabri-Tac into the hinge. It's basically there just to hold it in place. I mean, the worst case scenario, it would come off. If it comes off, you just put it back on again. So slide that onto the corner. Then I tend to press it down with my thumbs. Now I've got quite big firm hands, so that sometimes is enough, but I will very often come in and give it a bit of a cinch with my pointy nose pliers. Some people say, oh, it's going to mark the hinge, mark the corner. I don't mind. There are people who actually put a bit of felt on either side of this so that they use it specifically for that and it protects it. I've never had a problem, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to say it's a junk journal. It's a journal. It's a journal that's supposed to be loved and used. And through the course of its history, it's going to take a few dinks and dings along the way. So I'm not overly worried about that. I mean, I don't sell my journals. I gift or give them away, or 90% of the time I'm using them myself anyway. So the client's hardly going to complain if I am the client, are they? So I have been asked many times why I don't sell my journals, and a lot of that is, I mean, that's a lie actually. I do very rarely, I'll take a commission, but it's very, very rarely, and it's normally from someone I know. A lot of it is down to the posting of them, because I will have created a one-off unique piece of art in the form of a journal for the person who's going to receive it. And if they purchased it and it gets lost in the mail, yeah, I can reimburse that person, but I can never make the same journal twice. And the way the postal system is in the UK and internationally, come to think of it nowadays, I just don't trust things to get there anymore. So I think the only time I would probably sell my journals is if I was having, say I was at an art and craft fair, I would maybe make some journals to sell at that arts and crafts fair. Right, let's put that. Okay, see, that's exactly what I was looking for. for me, that's just finished that off. And they're nice and secure. They're on there. I've got no glue on the outside of them. That's one problem you might get if you put too much Fabri-Tac in the hinge. Sometimes it comes out the end or squishes there. Immediately wipe it off. If not, it'll be there forever and a day. Okay, I'm more than happy with that. So here we are, all ready to start sorting the signatures out. Now, I'm happy with the cover. The cover is fully dried, all ready to go. I didn't put a coating of Mod Podge on the inside because feeling this, I don't think it needs it. So let's talk about the colours I've chosen. So this is our, let's open this up, it's easy for you to see. Okay, so this is our palette as I'm using it for inspiration for colours all the way through. So I pulled out Arteza Jade Green, so you see why I've done that, and I pulled out dark teal as well, because if we have a look, hopefully there's not too much reflections, that's a pretty good match for what's on there. I wanted to lighten it slightly, so I pulled in some turquoise by Arteza, which is kind of reminiscent of some of these colours. I'm happy to be using that. I pulled in some white because I want to keep things light. I don't want to go dark here. I have a bit of a quandary about the gold. I don't have a gold or a bronze or anything that matches this perfectly. So I'm going to use these two, which I think are both deep gold. This is deep gold. This is iridescent precious gold. Just because they're going to be little hints and accents anyway. And then for this colour here, I kind of struggled, but I ended up finding permanent magenta, if I can open this up. And if I look at permanent magenta, it's not a million miles away from that colour. And I think I'm quite happy because it's not going to be a dominant colour anyway. As far as the stencils and things I'm going to use, I pulled out my little leaves. I'm going to use the 5x7 because if we look at this motif here, it is quite reminiscent of that motif there. Loving the idea that came through. I also pulled out Border Collection, and I pulled it out purely because, let me get it out of here. Now this is the same stencil in both sizes, but if you look at this here, that's also very reminiscent of that, so I can pull that through. Granted, those are little leaves and these are teardrops, but I'm quite happy to be playing around with those. I did pull out the polka dots, the dainty dots. I've got all three sizes, but I'm probably only going to use the 5x7 for that one. And what was one other thing I pulled out? I can't remember what this is called, Line Dot. It's one of my foam stamps from PM Artist Studio, purely because I want some sort of geometry in this, because if I look at this, this is very horizontal, vertical lines, and I thought this might just be the thing that might be something I use in the magenta just to add a darker piece of contrast. So that's where I'm up to. I've got my 9x12 plate out, and I like to use my 9x12 because I've got a sheet that I'm braying off on. This would be my signature page. Oh, that's a sticky old plate there, but as you can see, it fits perfectly in it. So if I wanted to create one pull signature pages, I can do that on this plate. But I've folded 17 of these. I only need a maximum of 15, and I've done 17 because maybe I'll mess them up. Maybe I'll put dirty fingers on one or two, but to be honest with you, I'm going to try and be careful. Can't guarantee that's going to happen, but anyway, so we're going to build up layers of colour as we go along. I also have a cleanup so that if there's stuff on here which I don't want, I'll just lift it off onto this 12x12 and we'll go from there. Now the paper I'm using for my signatures is, for me, it's called presentation paper. I don't have a weight for it. It's a bit thicker than copier paper. It's what I normally make my tea stained and coffee dyed papers from, so it's a little bit past copier paper because I'm using wet techniques. So I think I'm going to start with this colour, which is the turquoise. Now I normally have a 5x7 by my side, which I use as a palette. I'm not going to do that in this instant. I'm going to work directly on the plate because I'm planning on picking up little bits of paint. I don't want to paint the whole page. As I said, I do decorate pages prior to using them, and as you've seen in previous videos, I have a box full of pre-done pages, but watching Julie Torrens the other day reminded me that I should really think about decorating my pages a little more in advance before assembly. So actually I'll put a link to Julie Torrens's YouTube channel. Pop across, she's a lovely lady. She's doing some nice stuff. Pop over and see her. So I've got that down. I'm literally going to come in and I'm going to do a sort of kissing technique just to pick up bits on pages. Now, see what I mean? I'm just getting elements on there. I'm going to do a couple of these until this looks like it's all used up. I'm trying not to overlap the designs because I don't want these lines translating. So I've done that on opposite sides there. I think on this one I'm going to do something down the spine. So just coming in, and this is what I call a kissing technique. Literally, I'm just lifting pieces off the page. And it's quite a quick way to carry a theme or a colour theme throughout something. So let's do the bottom on this one and do the top on this one. So I'll find a bit that's got fingerprint. It's a personal touch, let's put it that way. Right, I think I might be able to get a little bit off there. Right, so those are those. Now, because it's just a thin layer of paint, it will dry quite quickly, so I should be able to get this whole process done quite quickly without contaminating other stuff. Now, I've done my colour, this one. I'm going to put it over this side so I know I've used it. And then once I've used them all, I will then potentially work my way back through them again. I just want to lift off some of this. I don't mind if it all comes off. I'm literally just cleaning my plate with this 12 by 12. Who knows what it'll become in the future. It may become a cover, it may become ephemera, it may become a base for something else. So, right, see, just building up stuff on there. Right, I think I want to come in now with some of this pearl mint, because I quite like this colour as well. And all I'm doing here, guys, is I'm building a foundation. And on top of the foundation, I will then use the stencils, I will use the stamp, I will use the mark making tools, just stuff. So I have to move quite quickly today because it's a very beautifully warm day today here in Wales, which is lovely. But what it means is everything is going to dry incredibly quickly on me if I'm not overly careful. Trying to put it on some places where it may not have been before. See, just little hints like that in a corner is enough. I like that actually, that's nice, subtle. Not that I'm overly known for doing subtle. Let's just pick up some of these, trying again to avoid any sharp edges. So I must admit I am really intrigued to see what Kylie Koo does with the stuff that I mailed her. I'm excited as well because I've seen some Kylie's work and I love it. So in fact, I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone has done, to be honest with you. I want to do some more of these. I think just add a little bit more of that on there because I've only done 2 pages out of that. I'm intrigued to see what everyone received and then what everyone has made from those 3 articles. Plus you can use anything else you want, which is a saving grace for all of us, because with 3 articles it's quite a tricky thing to make something if you've only got 3 pieces. Let's try and get a bit in that corner. We will look at all of these when they're done, by the way, guys. Now, it's not my intent to speed up any parts of the video because I personally struggle doing that. I'm not a great lover of that technique, but I can understand why people do it. What I'm going to do though is, if I'm repeating the same technique over and over again, I might cut out 1 or 2 of these pulls because then you can see them all in the end anyway, and I'm literally doing the same thing over and over. Right, I'm leaving it on the plate. I'm now going to pull in this dark teal. Don't want much of this at this point, but I would quite like it on here because it's one of the dominant colours of the cover. And of course, not every page has to have this on. It's probably going to, because I'm going to be working my way through this stack of papers, but it doesn't have to, which I quite like that as a div. Let's leave that. Let's pick up some on the inside. The reason I'm working on the inside and the outside is purely because when these pages are closed, I don't want just one side of everything done. Let's do one of those spine ones again. So it ends up down the middle. Here you go. See, so if I want to now, I can fold that in the other direction, and that would be the inside. Now my plan is not to put ephemera in this journal. I think I've already said that, but it's worth mentioning it again that I'm not planning to put ephemera in this. It's literally a decorated journal that you can write in. Right, I think I want to put another colour on here. I think I'm going to go and put some white on this, just to give some variation. This is some chalk paint, for no other reason than I quite like using chalk paint. Let's leave the white over that side, however. Now I'm quite happy for this to mix up a bit and give me a bit of a marbled type effect. Let's do there, and there, and a bit of there. It's okay. I might do the other colour on the inside. Now, obviously, these pages are not all going to be next to each other in the book, in the journal, so they can be wherever they choose to be. So just a little bit of painty accents. Behind me on the floor, I do have an old shower curtain on the floor, and that's my way of basically storage. Because yes, I do have a luxury of having an art studio. However, it's not the biggest in the world, floor space wise, and it's the way I find easier just to use the biggest surface that's open. It's called the floor. So now I want to think about building things into the background. Now, I quite liked this. I'm wondering whether this needs to... Yes, let's do this one next. I'm just conscious I don't want to do too much. So I'm going to put that down there. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to do white onto darker backgrounds. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint onto here. I don't need a lot, and I don't really want to go past the outer edges of my stencil because I don't want to inadvertently pick up any of it that's on the outside, and if there is, I will probably take a damp cloth and wipe it away. And there is little bits there, so first of all, we're going to lift that off there. Let's see if I just clean away some of these edges so that I don't inadvertently end up with straight edges, which isn't my plan at all. There you go. That gives me enough variance. Let's pick up some stuff. Right, so I quite like this area here. Now I want to come in, and as it's a vertical and horizontal design, I'd like to keep it vertical and horizontal. There's a nice piece in the middle here. I think I'm going to fold the paper and pull that up there. See, that looks lovely. I like the way that you've got the faint colour on there as well. Right, this has got a little bit of a ghost. I should be able to pick that off there. There you go. See, it's just enough to decorate the page. And this one, let's slide this up here. If I put two side by side, these two next to each other, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn over the stencil, or you can call it a mask, depends on how you're using it. And I'm going to put that down. It moved on me, but we'll live with that. And any that's on there just transfers a little bit across. Now I'm going to do this one more time. So I've got a little more of that leaf design in here, but this time I think I'm going to change tack and do a different colour. So let's pop that back down again. Clean my brayer off a bit. I think I'm going to come in with some of this deep gold. Now, I'm not great with metallics. I struggle with metallics purely because they dry very quickly, and even though I've got a swatch book, I never truly know whether they're going to be, what am I trying to say, opaque enough for me. Right, because of the trouble with drying time, I'm not going to clean up the edges. I'm just going to be a little more careful about how I pick up. See, I've got bits on there now. I'll show you all when we're finished, guys. Right, going to come in with I like how that looks. Right, let's put this back down. I quite liked that gold. That was a bit more. That's acrylic by Amsterdam. Deep gold. That was a bit more opaque than I remember that being. Actually, I'm pleased with that. Now, when you're rolling paint down into a stencil, whether it's a metal one, a mylar one, a Yupo one, a paper one, you need to put a little bit more paint because you do need to get down into that. But be aware, if you put too much paint down and then try and pick it up, you could smoosh it, squidge it around. So be careful of that one. Liking that. So a little bit top and bottom with this one. Try not to pick up that straight line. Let's see if I pick up anything on that edge. There you go. I quite like that. I think I'm going to call that one done in a minute. I've got this mint one here. Let's see what we can pick up with the mint. That's lovely. Loving that. A little bit down by there. So I think anything off this at all. Ooh, little tiny fingerprint. I'll be forgiven, I'm sure. Well, as I said, it's probably going to be a journal for me anyway. Right, let's see if I can put this, the lifted one, off onto something. Right, side by side papers. Let's lay this across. It's giving me interest. That's all I ask of it, to give me some interest. Keep my fingers as clean as I can. See, that's just enough on the edge of a page. I don't mind that. Right, I pulled in these that have got that mint colour down the side. And I think what I want to do is I want to pull in this colour with it. Now I'm going to put my paint onto the Yupo, not necessarily the stencil, for no other reason than I find that I get a better coverage this way. Roll that over there because I've got a little bit too much on there. Let's lift this off and quickly try and wipe down this one edge. A little bit of housekeeping. Let's pull in this one. This has got a nice thing down it. There you go. That's given me that design. And while I've got this on the go, let's use the other side, because that's going to give me a ghost print of it, which, pity about that, but you know what, I'll enhance it, I'll make it into something. Right, I want to do that again, because I quite like that effect. Do I want to do the same colour though? Yes, I do. Let's do the same colour again. Remembering I need less paint than I did last time. I keep thinking this is a bigger stencil. Well, a bigger one than it is anyway. Pick the puppy up. Bit of a quick clean so I don't inadvertently get too much over the edges. I think what I'm going to do this time, however, is I'm going to lay that bit of tissue down on there, and that isolates it completely for me, just so I can actually pick up a couple of pulls of this. That's looking lovely. Let's see if I can get any sort of ghosting on that one. That's cool. A little bit down there. Okay, I don't mind those. Right, let's lift that off there. Not that I think it's going to lift a lot, but it'll lift a bit. Yeah, let's clean that up. So we've done the teardrops, we've done the leaves. I think I may need to have a little bit of a clean up on this plate if I'm going to be starting adding white. So I'm going to have a look now and see what undecorated pages I've got, and then make my choices about how to utilize them from there. I'm going to put this to one side to dry. So bear with me, I just need to sort out which pages are now unadorned. So these are the ones that are not fully decorated. That's 1, 2, a little bit on there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a little bit of, what should I say? Bit of bubble wrap work. So I'm just going to move this over to one side so I've got an area that I can actually work upon. And I'm going to come in with white. And I'm going to come in with just plain packaging bubble wrap. Now I found this patch of bubble wrap in my supplies, and luckily enough it's already got teal on it. So if some of the teal pulls off this, or turquoise pulls off it, I'm okay with that because it's the right colour group. So I'm just literally going to come in. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Pick up a bit, put down a bit. Pick up a bit more, put down a bit. Right, that one's almost done. This was the centre of the page, so let's see if I can find a longer piece to put down the middle. There you go, so that will show on both pages. This one just needs one corner. This one needs something across the bottom, and I think I'm literally going to pick up what's on the mat because it's white paint. It's going to be quite interesting to see, and it gives another effect. Oh, don't need that hair in there though. Oh, it's gone. Right. Now I've just got these couple left, or these few left, so I'm just going to pick up what's left and add it to these. And it should show up really nicely because it's a darker colour. So yes, as I'm editing this video, if anything pops into my mind as to other YouTube people you need to watch, I will actually put links to their stuff in the description box. So what I'm thinking of doing with the magenta is I'm going to use this plastic grid, and you've seen me use this so many times before and I love using it. So I've pulled out 4 that need a little more help in my opinion. So I'm going to use that on here. So again, if I can get it unscrewed, I roll it out on the gel plate first because it will give me a thinner coating to pick up, so I'm not building up big clumps of paint on the stuff I'm actually working on. I'm going to go in quite a thinnish strip because that's the effect I want on this page. See, it just gives it a little bit of a something. Oh, there's this one too. Pull a little more, put it right down there. That'll help cover up that line. This one needs some along the top, definitely. And actually, why not put some along the bottom as well? Just really quick ways of decorating pages. Let's see if I've got any more on here. I can just pop onto here. There's a little more paint left on there. Let's see if I've got one I can use. Let's use this one. Right, I think we're done with this. Let's clean up that. Right, give me a couple of seconds, guys. I'm just going to clear the decks. Right, so I'm going to come in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put black on this side, and then I'm going to stamp on this, stamp my pages on this side, because after each one I want to give it a bit of a wipe down because I don't really want to pick up any black on anywhere else, so I'm going to be in this eternal circle of trying to keep things clean. Now it could be as I stamp I leave pieces on here that I then pick up. So I'm just going to use my foam stamp just to pick up a bit. I'm going to come in. Is there anything on the other side? There was something on the other side, right? Trying to be really careful with my placement of my hands here. Right, that one's done. I will hold this up after it's dried. Right, so I've got stuff on here which is interesting. So I'm literally going to come in and pick all of that up with that page, or all that will come up on that page. See, it's interesting. So just going to give that a little bit of a wipe. Now, because I'm conscious this is probably going to be not as clean as I want, I'm just going to use some paper towel to lay up or lie on top of it so I don't get anything anywhere else. Now, I don't like that line there. So in my mind, that needs to go. And if you can't hide it, reveal it. That gives me some interest on there. Now remember, these are just little pops of drama throughout the pages. Let's pull this one in. I do have quite a few stamp designs lodged with PM Artist Studio, by the way. So if you do like the look of foam stamps, if you go to their website, and yes, there will be a link to it, if you search by designer and put in my name, Ceri Griffiths, you will find that I've got either 9 or 10. I've lost track of them now. And there are more coming. I know there's more coming because guess what? I'm the designer. I know they're on their way. Some of the designs have already been printed off, ready for next month, which I think is exciting. It's nothing like using your own designs in your artwork. It's just fun. Right, this black is drying out a little bit. Let's be careful. I wanted this to be a little more, I don't know what I was thinking I wanted it more of, but I wanted more. So right, this one needed not a lot, to be honest. Oh, I know I pulled this. I wanted to cover that up. Now, it's going to be a bit hit and miss whether I get it in the right place. But you know what? I don't mind. It's there. It's just covering something. And it could be one of the ones we don't use anyway. Right, this definitely needs a something. I think I'm going to fold this over now so I'm not picking up dirty on my dirty. My black is also drying out, so that's why I'm not getting the best of impressions all over the place. And it's because I don't really want to add more black paint down because I've only got one more page to go. So let's see if I can just get a little bit down this edge and a little bit on that one. Yay, we did it. So, right, bear with me, clean up time. We're done with all the paints. I was tempted to put more gold in there, but I think I'm just going to leave it as is because I don't want to overpower the internals. So I'm going to pause you. So here we are, all cleaned up, and I'm going to go through these now, and I'm going to select which ones work best with this cover. If it's all of them, it's all of them. I'm not sure I can get 17 in, but if it's all, it's all. If it's 10, it's 10. If it's 5, it's 5. I'm not going to take anything that doesn't really speak to me. Now, there is one other element of this challenge, which was I needed to use the third piece. And I've been debating about this. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this, but I think I now have come up with a plan. It fits perfectly into the shape of the book. Probably needs a fraction of a trim. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this down just ever so slightly. I'm then going to stick a piece of paper on the back of here, and what I'm going to do is I'm then going to sew around it. I may also decorate that piece of paper with the strip that I took off here, and then I'm going to type up, because my handwriting is absolutely appalling, type up what the challenge was about, the date and who it was. So you'll see this finished. I'm not going to do this on screen because seriously you need to see me glue paper, type, print and sew something with a machine. Probably not. So I will do this bit and you will see it, and then what I'll do is I'll tear this so it's a nice edge. Can I do top and bottom maybe? I might be able to do top and bottom. I don't know. So I'm going to make this into a big card that sits in the back that will always remind me of what this challenge was about. So I'm going to open up the journal cover completely so that we can see the whole palette. Hopefully I'm in shot. The whole palette of what we're looking at as comparing what we're keeping, what we're not. So the first signature page was this one. I like the subtlety of this, and I do like the gold in this. So I'm going to put this into the maybe pile. This one, I love that it picked up this. I like this. I like I've got a blank page. This is in a definite pile. This one, I like this down here because it's slightly unusual. Nothing in the middle, that's fine. Going to put this in the definite pile. Okay, what's the next one? Right. This one, I like the drama of this. That white line bothers me slightly, so I'm just going to put it into the maybe pile. This one is a spine one. I really love that. That's staying into the good pile. No, that's a maybe. Actually, that might even be a no. Let's put that to one side. Okay, I like this a lot, but I don't feel it belongs to what I've already got. So I think this is going into the maybe pile. This, I quite liked this. This was different to what I've seen on the others, so I'm going to keep that. I seem to be keeping the ones with the black, don't I? Again, I'm keeping that. Don't know, it might be a bit too bold. I like this. I like the subtlety of it. I've got the magenta coming through. I'll keep that one. See, I really like this one. I think we're going to keep this one. So I do have some more of the raindrop theme in here, which might bring into play this one again. Yes, let's put those in the definite pile. This one is subtle. It's also got a honking big mark there, and I don't like that doubling up, so that's out of the play. This one, I like this. Don't mind that. This one, I really do like that. That's really nice. I don't mind that it's not completely straight. Not sure about that. This colour, it is, but it isn't part of this, right? Before we do anything else, let's see how many I've got. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I do have 10. That's actually, I don't mind that. Let's see if there's anything in these that I really think need to know. See, my thing is, if I've got that colour, I need to have more than one piece of it. I don't mind that one. See, I think I got rid of this colour in one of the we're not going to use it piles. Yeah, those are definitely not going to be used. I think if I put the two of them in, then this colour has a home. Not necessarily together, but those two are there. Right, let's get this sorted then. I had another idea because I had a quick look at this, and I think that works quite nicely as the inside page, and I don't mind that against that as well. So I'm going to put this as the first page. Then we're going to have to work out what our other pages will be. So I'm going to do this quite quickly because we already know we like the pages. Quite like that one next, I think. Right, so if I've got something that's white, I'd quite like something dark next to it. So I've gone quiet, guys, because I'm actually thinking at the moment. Doesn't happen too often, but there you go. Now this bit is completely down to personal taste. I cannot say I've got a method for this. I'm just assembling pieces. And actually that ends up as the middle. I don't mind that being the middle. Right, let's have a look and see what this visually will look like. Hopefully I was in screen for all of that. So we would open our pages. As I said, this is a journal I intend people to write within. Actually, I'd quite like to swap that one. Only because I've got a left-hand page and a left-hand page that are white, and actually that works together as well. Those two look very, very similar. Let's split those up. Let's take that one out of there. Actually, that's good because it can go in there. Right. Hopefully I haven't just put that straight back where it came out of. So, right, we're into the sewing in process, guys. I'm going to be happy with that. Now, I've done sewing in journal covers, journals into covers many, many times. I'm going to put this into this video. However, if it's really a long video, because I reckon this is probably going to be about an hour and a half if I'm lucky. If it's too long, I'm just going to put a link in the description box back to a video where I've done it in the past. So I'm just going to use some of these clamps. And all I'm doing is I want to make sure that this fits all the way down to the spine. Putting my thumb in there, and I'm just going to come in, clamp that one. I tend to turn it around and do its opposite partner at the other end. Now this is just the way I learned to do it. I don't know whether this is absolutely the correct way to do this. It just happens to be a way that I do it. So if you're someone who sews in all the time and you have an opinion that contradicts mine, please be kind about it, because I'm just doing what I do. So I've got that all in there, just worth checking it's all nicely in. And then I'm going to get my sewing in kit. Now, I was thinking long and hard, what colour should I use as a sewing in thread? I think I'm going to use black, and that will tie into the black in here as well, which isn't a problem. So I'm just going to use black thread. I've got rather a large needle. I think it's not an embroidery needle because it's got a point, but it is quite a large needle. Because we all need a certain size eye when you get to this size thread. Right. Let's see how I'm going to do this. Right. Now, I normally sew my threads in double. And I want to put charms at the bottom of this, so I want even more. So I would normally do 5 lengths. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because it's what it is, I'm going to give it a bit more, purely because I've got enough thread, and I don't want to have to do this twice, because it's on video and I want to make sure it's done properly the first time around. So just thread that through there. That was pure luck. Put all the way down to there. Now, most people only sew using one thread. I just always sew with 2. So now this isn't all. This is AWL, and it's for punching holes in stuff. So I'm going to take these ends and I'm going to tuck them in, just so that they're not flapping around on me and not getting in my way. Because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to try and sew this all together, and guess what? I'll probably sew the ribbons in as well, which is not my intent in the slightest. So now, you can get really picky and measure and do this. I just eyeball this. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to fold the book slightly. This is just an old paperback that I use as to punch through so I don't damage my mat. I'm going to come sort of in the middle, push all the way through, retrieve it. I'm going to come down from the top, probably about an inch. and again push it all the way through to the book below, and again come up from the bottom about an inch all the way through to the other side. Now at this point you're going to find it really hard to see your holes on the other side, so give yourself a bit of a chance. Come in from one side, and I usually like to come in from the other side just so I know that the hole is definitely visible. Again, as you can see by that one there in the middle, you need to go out and put my finger there just to see where it was, push down into it, and it gives me more of a visible hole. And again, push it up, and I'm going to push, I've already lost it. There it is. Right, I'm going to go back down again into the hole if I can find it. There you go. Now you keep this to hand because you might need to use it again just to discover where you put it. Now there are several different ways of doing a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I have 2 versions I use. This is the one I'm going to use today. Again, plenty of bookbinding videos out there. Please seek out whatever works for you. So I'm going to go from the middle, push my needle through, pull my thread all the way to about there, because I want to put charms on this, so I want it hanging lower than that. I'm then going to put my thumb on that to pull this a little tight, and hopefully, fingers crossed, ooh, that was luck, come back in through the bottom hole. Now I'm going to go all the way to the top hole. Again, pull it nice and firmly. You want it taut, you don't want to cut your pages in half. Now this bit is really important, guys. Hold this so that it's really quite tight to the tail, because you want to go back into this hole, but you do not want to go and split your existing thread. So if you're holding this tight, it means that if you go into the hole, you should be able to go through the side of that thread. If I can get this in the hole. Where is the hole? Sorry guys, this is the joys of using a fabric cover. Right, I love them. However, they can be tricky because the fabric moves around. Come on, I can feel you. There you go, in you go. Yay, we have success. Houston, we have liftoff. Okay, so now I've got everything in here. I'm going to make sure all of the ends are pulled quite tightly. I want this to be firm, should we say. Right, I'm going to slacken this off a bit because I'd quite like more of a tail at the bottom, I think. Right. Now I've got this, these are both on the same side. I want to thread this under so it goes to the other side. So now we've got a cross happening. At this point I'm going to take these clips off. Oh, I bent my page back there, it'll flatten out. Anyway, only because I want it to lie as flat as it can, I'm going to cut off the needle, because otherwise I will stab myself to death with it. I'm going to come in and give it 1 knot, give it a bit of a tug to make sure it's a nice secure knot. I'm going to give it another knot. Now some people give it 3 knots. It's completely up to you how you do it. I don't normally have a problem. I'm going to let the ends dangle down. I'd like them to be about the same length if possible. So I'm going to snip them all to the same length. And we've now got it all sewn in. Pull out my ties again. So now we have a journal ready to go. It's what I call a sort of a naked journal. I do have charms I'm going to tie onto the end of here. We're pretty much done. Okay, now the charms I'm going to use, I've got these 2 charms which are a bit like a Celtic knot. And I thought, you know what, Kylie Coo is in Scotland and I'm in Wales. And if I tie those onto there, it's sort of reminiscent of some of the Celtic knot work, and it just works for me. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go on and make the card for the back. And then we're going to come in and do one last flip through so you can see exactly what the whole thing looks like. So I will see you in a little bit. And we're finished, and I'm really excited and very, very pleased with the results. So Before anything else, thank you makers for putting this out there in Mariah and PM Artist Studio. A really good idea. The swap and make and keep was wonderful. Thank you Kylie Koo Studio for the articles you sent me and the opportunity to do something different. I've been struggling a bit with how should I have tied this into the theme of old to new. And I think basically I sort of broke an old habit. I mean, I got into a habit of always putting coffee dye pages in and not decorating them till I use them. So that was my old habit. And my new habit for this journal was I used white pages. Don't know that I've used white pages in a complete journal before, and decorated the pages without ephemera. So I think that's how I got into it. So let's do a really quick little flip through so you can see exactly what we ended up with. So had the cover, I stitched on the little pearls, I had the topper and attached that on, really loved that, it went with the theme. Again, a few on the back. As I said, I don't know who did this background. I don't know whether it comes from Patricia at PM Artist Studio or whether it's a piece from one of my swaps in the past. It was in my artist trading card box, which makes me think that either someone sent it to me as a piece and I cut it down, or as a piece of tissue that someone sent me that I stuck over the top. So anyway, there's that. Again, a bit of sari silk I tied it closed with. There you go. Right, let's start at the very beginning. So this was the card piece that I said I was going to make into something. I made a little topper for it because I really like the dangle for the top of that. It can come over the front of the journal. And what I did in the end is I did this. So I made something up. I used spare bits of painted papers at the top of the bottom. I said who it's made by because you'd always do that. I also put Kylie Koo Studio on there because we did this as a joint effort. And I gave a sort of summary of what it was about. So I like that. That was a nice thing to do, and it'll always be in the front of there to remind me of what it was. So we had one of my painted pages which I cut down as the opening page. My shot I am. And then as you can see, I'm just going to do a really quick flick because you flick through, you have seen these. So it's mainly a writing journal. Now if I wanted, I could come in and put more traditional ephemera in here. There's obviously space for it. And I might do that. I don't know, but I'm certainly not going to do that in this video. The video will be like 5 hours long. But see how I pulled all of the colours from the front into here, or as close as I can. So I pulled in some of my stencil designs as well, which is really nice to get to play. Some of my rubber stamp detailing too. I love this bit. I like the way it sort of comes in on an angle, which is very unlike me. I'm normally a straight up or horizontal person. Yeah, I like this. This turned out really well. I'm very happy with this, to be honest with you. Very, very happy with this. As I said, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I'm going away again in August, September-ish. And I might use this as my travel journal, or I don't know. It's going to go onto my shelf from other journals. I love this page. This spread turned out beautifully, and I love the way all of the elements like little leaves played into the little leaves down here on the design. I just loved all that. Oh, and I did put charms in it. So I put in two. I put the two charms, one to represent Kylie Koo Studio and one to represent me. And I went with sort of a Celtic knot feel because I thought that was as close as I could get to anything Scottish and anything Welsh. Again, detail. You saw me make all of these pages. Nothing was hidden from you. You saw how I did it. And I think in future I might make a few of these like this in various colour groups or families and actually put them into my box of pre-made pages, purely because I think that would be a really nice thing to be able to pull on. Even just having a little bit of frosted green mint up there, just enough, a little hint. At the beginning I didn't like that line down there, but when I put this in and it tied it all in, I nearly got it perfectly straight, but actually that doesn't matter. I like that page as it is now. So it's amazing how you can change your mind as you go along. So there's something on most pages. That again, subtle, loving that. And then we come to the end and we have the back cover and this. Now, I decided not to put a back pocket on here because I thought, I don't feel I want to put a back pocket on there. So that's my whole adventure into this what was it called? The June swap, make and I can't think of the words I'm speaking today. Swap, make and keep. whatever it's going to be called. So I really love that. Thank you again for the inspiration, guys. Now I'm going to put links in the description box below to anything I've used or anything I can find that I've used in this. I will put in the link below. I'll also put a link to Kylie Koo's studio, her YouTube channel. Go over and see her. I think I'm going to put a link into Julie Torrens as well, because Julie was the one that reminded me about preparing your pages ahead of time. And if you wish to buy anything from PM Artist Studio, at the checkout stage, if you enter the code exactly written like that into the code, it'll give you 10% purchase reduction off any order over $35. So I think that's a good thing to do. So I think at the moment I'm very, very happy with that. So thank you for putting up with what will be a long video, but many of you said you don't mind a longer video because you can always pause it, you can always stop it, you can always go back to it, you can always rewind it, you can always fast forward it. You were in charge of those buttons. So I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, bye-bye now.